Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Balanced Business Coach. My name is Toni Robinson, and I help individuals and teams overcome burnout, prevent burnout, and overcome toxic workplace culture. I am really excited for what we have today. We are going to get into something called the Savior Complex, and I'm going to do this in a bit of a different format. It's going to be almost interview style, but by myself. So, um, the savior complex is something that is extremely close to my heart because it's something I've struggled with for many, many years, something I had to come to the realization of that I was truly giving myself up in order to help others, but I was not doing myself any favors. And it was putting me in situations where I really just sacrificed every bit of myself for other people to save them. And I couldn't. I couldn't save them. I couldn't do what I set out to do. So I was constantly feeling like I'm not enough. I'm not doing enough. What more can I do? Like what's wrong with me? And that led to, some really dark places in my life, but mostly it just led to really abusive, traumatic relationships, not only personally, but also professionally. So I thought it was extremely important for me to bring this topic to the table because I think it's a huge part of what contributed to my burnout. Um, I'm going to be talking about the difference between the savior complex and people pleasing. They are very similar, but there is a big difference, one big difference between the two of them. I feel like having bits and pieces of both of these traits or characteristics about myself really did not allow me to thrive to my fullest potential in the workplace because I was really focused on the wrong stuff, you know? All of that being said, let's get into it. So, the savior complex, in a nutshell, is really neglecting your own needs in order to save and help someone else. It's always being on the go, always doing something more so that you can get that validation that, like, you helped someone, that you did a good thing. And the problem with this is like we give up, we sacrifice our own needs in order to help other people, but we don't realize how much we're taking from ourselves in order to meet the needs of other people. Um, it's really important to note that like helping other people is not a bad thing, it's not a problem. But when you make it your entire identity and you feel worthless without helping someone, or when someone's not giving you the validation that you've helped them, that's when it gets really toxic and dangerous for your mental health. I kind of mentioned earlier the savior complex is similar to people pleasing, but the one main difference that I want to offer is that the savior complex is about empathy. And what I mean by that is the sole reason people want to help someone is because they have empathy. They see a situation and they're like, man, I feel that. Like, my heart hurts for them. I want to help that situation. And so it starts from this really beautiful place of seeing someone and understanding them and being able to put yourself in their shoes and be like, man, I hate that you're going through that. I want to like help bring you out of that because I hate seeing you in that. So the difference between people pleasing and the savior complex is really about that empathy piece. Not to say that people pleasers don't have empathy, but their driving factor isn't necessarily based on empathy. It's based on, I've been told to be good. I've been conditioned to do X, Y, and Z in order to get praise. And so I'm going to do whatever it takes in order to feel like I did a good job. But it's not necessarily rooted in, I feel bad for this person, so I'm going to do this. It's more of a, I need internal validation because I want to feel like a good person. I want to feel like I'm doing the right things. So I do the right things. I do all of the good things that get me rewarded. Savior complex, on the other hand, follows that same path, but it's more about, I see this problem that this person has. Let me go after that thing so that I can get the validation that I've helped someone. Hopefully that makes sense, the difference. So the person doing the saving with the savior complex is really connected to the person that they're saving. They almost take on the responsibility of the person or like the situation that they're experiencing, and they feel like it's their battle to fight. They feel like, okay, this is mine now, and I'm going to do whatever I need to do to like fix this. And the problem with that is that it takes away the responsibility from the person that is actually responsible for fixing the situation. On a more personal level, if it's someone who has an addiction where the savior complex shows up quite frequently and you want to fix their addiction or you want to save them from their addiction, like you may take on the addiction as your problem that you have to solve. It might feel like it's, I have to like go to all of these AA meetings with this person. I have to make sure that they know to show up to this thing. I have to send them all these resources. I have to do all of these things to make sure that they are recovering from this disease. But the other person may not even want that help. They may not even have any desire to recover from addiction, but you have taken on this problem as your own. And then what happens is you get into this like resentment mode because you're doing so much to try and help them, and they're taking it, but they're not giving you anything back. And they may not even be doing anything to actually fix the situation themselves. So you're not seeing any result from all of this effort that you're putting in. So you're feeling like a failure. You're feeling like you're not doing enough. And then you get completely burned out. So, if you have a savior complex, you may experience that you only feel good or you only feel happy when you're helping someone else. You might believe that helping other people, serving other people, doing things for other people is your purpose in life. And you will probably, definitely, most likely, maybe almost always give all of your energy away to other people to the point that it depletes you and burns you out. So, again, I just want to say helping other people is not bad. It's when it becomes your identity and you feel almost worthless without being able to fix a person or a situation. A few things that cause the savior complex, it can come from a person's past. If in childhood they were kind of forced to grow up too fast and take responsibility over things that they probably shouldn't have at their age. Maybe it was watching other siblings, maybe it was taking care of stuff around the house, maybe it was even taking care of a parent who didn't know how to take care of the child, so the child had to play parent. Those situations can cause a person to develop a savior complex. Another one, which I think is probably where mine is rooted in, is self-worth, self-esteem, not having very high self-confidence and wanting to be validated by others that you're good enough, that you're worthy of love, of attention, of anything really. And you do that by making yourself indispensable to other people instead of knowing that you're innately worthy of good things, of positive things, of a happy life. You think that you can only be happy, you can only be deserving of love and attention and affection if you do something for someone, if you do something to help them, if you do something to save them. So you seek certain people who need help and will be like, "Thank you so much. I don't know what I would do without you. What would I do without you? What would we do without you here?" Foreshadowing. And another one is that it could be like societal expectations. So if you are in a religion or a culture that really pushes, promotes martyrdom, selflessness, altruism, like these are things that really breed that feeling of like, I just need to give myself away to other people. They can use me in whatever way they need as long as they're happy, I'm happy. That's what that comes from. So, people with a savior complex are very likely to gravitate towards toxic relationships, toxic workplaces, any situation that really needs rescuing or saving. So, that could be a relationship, like I mentioned before, where someone is an addict. It could be someone with emotional issues or like a really traumatic past. Um, it could be a toxic workplace or a startup, even somewhere that really is like, we need all the help we can get. We need to like turn this around. We need to like make this thing work. That is a place where people with a savior complex will be like, this is the place for me. I can do big things here. In comes my story. I absolutely believe that my savior complex landed me in two of the most tumultuous relationships that I have ever been a part of. One of them was with my child's father. One of them was with my previous employer. In both of these situations, one of them was a person who had a really traumatic childhood, who actually did struggle with addiction. I didn't even think about that, but he actually did struggle with addiction and was going through a really crazy court case. And he needed someone. He needed support. He needed money. He needed like someone to validate him. And he needed to feel like he was worthy. And so I took on that role of like, if I can make him feel worthy, then he'll make me feel worthy. And it was this like really weird, toxic dynamic between the two of us where I almost felt superior to him because I was like, I am worthy because I'm the one who's like giving out this worthiness. But underneath that, it was like, but I'm not actually worthy. And so I still need him to tell me that I am. And I will be able to get that if I tell him that he is and do things to make him feel like he is, right? So that was that relationship. Did not end well. The other one was my workplace. And this one was a little bit trickier. The core of it is that there wasn't a lot, it wasn't a well oiled machine. Our organization was not a well oiled machine. And so there was always something wrong. There was always something to fix. There was always something there was always a problem. There was always a person who was upset. There was always like a culture issue that needed to be fixed. There was always something. And I had the ideas. I had the strategy. I had all of these things to fix it, to make it better. But the problem was the person who had the power to actually execute on the decisions or say, like, yes, we're going to, move forward with that decision, he was not in a place to make those good decisions for his business. And so we constantly found ourselves back at square one, going in circles, coming up with the same ideas over and over again. I told you last time, this is what we should do. And I would put myself in situations where, like, I just had to give everything that I possibly could to the problems there in order to make it better, because in return, I would get these emails randomly from my boss that were like, I'm so thankful for you. I don't know what we would do without you here. You are one of the best employees I've ever had. Thank you for everything you do. And that was all I needed. It was all I needed. It would keep me going because I was like, I am valuable. I'm valuable as fuck here. They need me. They need me. And so I need them. And the reason I stayed for so long was because I could not possibly understand how I could go somewhere else that needed me as bad as they did, that would validate me and make me feel worthy as much as they did. And so I stayed. I stayed for a very long time in both relationships. And I thank God for, like, pushing me towards coaching. And if you didn't know this about my story, I was in the thick of the relationship with my son's biological dad. I just was like, I can't live like this anymore. I have to do something. I hate my job. I hate my relationship. Like, I'm miserable and I need to do something. So I decided I was going to go back to school for psychology because I always really loved psychology. I loved learning about it. I loved going to therapy. I loved, like, exploring myself. Um, I loved understanding my mind, my brain, how it all works together and why I do the things I do and all of that. So I applied for this program, and the guidance counselor, I don't remember what they're called, but the guidance counselor, basically, he called me and he was like, trying to get some understanding about what I was looking to do, why I was applying to this program, so on and so forth. And I was like, well, I really want to help people change their lives. Like, I want to help them with their mindset. I want to help them create a better life for themselves. And he was like, well, you don't want to be a therapist. I was like, huh? What? Why? And he was like, you want to be a life coach. And this was like 2017, I want to say. So at that time, like, I had never heard of a life coach. I was like, life coach who? What is that? He was like, look it up, do some research, see what you think. And if you still want to become a therapist, then, like, let's continue talking. But he was like, I really think that you would resonate with life coaching based on what you're telling me. I was like, okay. So I did my little Googles and I found this program. And I'm just so grateful that that person was put on my path because they weren't trying to just accept me into a program so that this college could get more money. They really were there to, like, do their job and help guide people on the right path. And I believe wholeheartedly I would not be here where I am today if he had not told me you should look into life coaching. Because once I went into the certification program to become a life coach, I really started to change as a person. My beliefs really started to change, and it put me on this trajectory of self-worth, self-confidence, understanding, acceptance. It just completely changed where my life was going. And so even though I was in that relationship for a few more years, I was in the workplace that I was at for many, many more years. It started the foundation of what I needed to build. And there were many years of having that foundation broken. I think another thing that has, like, really contributed to my savior complex is I didn't know my biological dad growing up. He was not in the picture because he had a lot of toxic traits. He was definitely an addict. He was just not fit to be a parent at all. And so my mom did the most heroic thing I think anybody could ever do. And she took me out of that situation and she raised me on her own. And I think I've seen men as this like opportunity for me to save this vision that I had of a dad. I never felt like I really missed having a dad around because after a certain number of years, I did have a stepdad in my life. But him and my mom parented very separately, so it was different. But I feel like as I've reflected on what the savior complex is, it's almost like I was trying to go back and save my biological dad. If I can save all of these other men in my life, then maybe he could get saved too. Maybe someone out there will save him and he'll finally like want to be my dad. He'll finally want to get right for me. If I save enough men in life, then I'll be worthy of my dad's love. That's pretty profound to reflect on, to realize, but at the end of the day, these realizations, these understandings, these knowings, they weren't enough for me to leave. They weren't enough for me to get out. It was like a step. It was like, okay, I get where this is coming from. I get why I'm doing this, but I don't know how to stop it. I don't know how to feel worthy. I don't even know what worthiness is outside of someone telling me. I don't know, why would someone be worthy outside of what they can do for other people? What would I be worthy of if I wasn't doing something for someone? Why would they think I was worthy? I couldn't just be innately worthy. I couldn't just be worthy. I had to do something to receive that. And it was something I always had to be working towards getting more of. It was like, your heart just beats. You were born and your heart just started beating. And you don't have to like tell your heart to beat, go to the store and get more heartbeats. You don't have to ask someone on the street to like make your heart beat. It just beats. While you are living, it just beats. And that is the same thing with your worthiness. You are just worthy because you are. You don't have to seek it. You don't have to ask for it. You don't have to keep trying to get more of it. It just is. And you just are. And that was such a huge shift for me because I always thought that I had to do something to receive that. This episode has been way different than what I expected it to be, but I hope you guys are enjoying it. So, getting back on track, what can you do? How can you fix this? What can you do if you feel like you're trying to save the day at work, or if you feel like you're trying to save the day in your relationships? What can you possibly do to start to turn that around? Honestly, I hated this answer because it's the hardest thing to do. It's like when I said that the understanding and the knowing wasn't enough. I had to actually do something to change my behavior, to change my beliefs. And that came with introspection. It came with questioning myself. It came with questioning the things that I was doing. Why am I doing that? What is the result I'm looking for? Is this really going to be beneficial to this other person? Am I doing this because they're asking me to, or am I doing this because I'm imposing myself and I want them to tell me thank you? I started asking myself these questions and I started to realize that so many things that I was doing weren't actually required of me. They were just something I wanted to do for my own benefit, for my own validation. Things that you can do is number one, like start talking to people about this. Like talk to your family, talk to your friends, talk to a therapist, talk to a coach, talk to someone who's able to like help you work through these feelings of needing validation. Maybe they will help you see that your value has nothing to do with what you can do for them, with how much you help them, but more so it has to do with just you being you and you just having presence in their life. And that's what they love about you. That's why they love you, is not because of what you can do, but because of who you are. Something I also recommended on the People Pleaser podcast that I did, and I'll link that here in case you didn't watch that one. That one was really, really good too. Um, but is not immediately saying yes or no to anything, but saying, let me get back with you on that, or maybe let me check into it. Just not committing to anything right away, allowing yourself to process and feel into, is this the right move for me? Is this right for me to do? Is this right for me to put myself in this situation? Is this healthy for me? Especially if you're going on a journey of trying to change your mindset, change your beliefs. You really want to be intentional about the things that you're saying yes and no to. And the other thing that you can do and really just start to notice is the people that you're trying to help or that you're trying to save don't put more effort or work into the problem than they are putting. Supporting someone is allowing them to reach out to you and say, hey, I need X, Y, and Z. Can you help me with this? Yes or no? You working harder and giving them all these resources and options and tools and yada yada, and they haven't even like Googled a single fucking thing for the issue that they have, or they haven't even tried to like seek real help or make real change on their own. They kind of want you to do all the heavy lifting for them. You need to stop doing that. Do not put in more effort than what that person is putting in. You also really want to start to get introspective, start to question all of your decisions, all of the thoughts that you're having. Like, am I helping this person or am I hindering them? Is me helping them actually going to help them? Or am I only doing this to like keep them at peace and happy? Like, am I just doing this so that they won't like be upset with me? Are you doing this for them to get better or for you to feel better? Are they asking you to help or are you imposing yourself? And do you want to do this or do you have to do this? Asking yourself questions like this are really going to help you start to see patterns of when you're making decisions based off of your savior complex, not from a grounded mental space, which is where you really want to get. Another thing that I think is really going to help you is establishing like a practice to release your limiting beliefs, your fears around not being worthy, around, okay, if I back off, is this person going to break up with me? If I back off, is this person going to fire me? Having the ability to work through those things and process those emotions, those fears is going to be really key. I highly encourage whether it's journaling or meditating or a really, really beautiful practice is EFT tapping. Highly, highly recommend getting a practice for yourself for you to be able to process through those emotions. And I just want to end this with a few things that you can do to really establish your self-worth. To be clear, some things that do not contribute to your self-worth, that do not determine your self-worth. Number one is your car, your house, your job, these things that put you in a high status. Those do not determine whether you're worthy. Your to-do list, getting everything checked off, doesn't make you more worthy than the next person. You just are worthy. They just are worthy. And no amount of checking to-do boxes is going to make you more worthy. Other things are your age, your appearance, your followers, your kids' success or grades that they're getting. your relationship status. Like, none of these things are what make you worthy. And so I had to ask myself this question, like, if my worth isn't tied to what I do or what I accomplish, then what is it tied to? Because it has to be tied to something. It has to be given based off of something. And the truth is, our worthiness is not dependent upon doing. It's not dependent upon accomplishments. It's just in us. It's who we are. We are worthiness. It's unchangeable. It is infinite. It's who we are. It is us. But it's hard to see worthiness in something that we don't know. And when you don't know yourself, it's really hard to just be yourself and feel worthy because you don't know this person. If you don't know yourself, how could you see your value? You don't know what you're valuing. You don't know what you're giving worthiness to because you don't know who you are. But you know what you do. You know all of these accomplishments that you have. You've been able to check all those boxes off. You've been able to have other people tell you, this is amazing. You did this thing. You helped me. What would I do without you? And so you feel like, I know those things. I know those things work. I don't know that who I am all by itself. I don't know that person. I don't know how to feel like worthy of just being that person. And so all of this to say, it really starts with you getting to know yourself. And I think that's what the beauty was in me going on the life coaching certification journey, is because it made me get introspective. I had to go through all of the exercises myself. I had to be coached. I had to learn myself. I had to learn what it was like to just be. I had to learn what was inside of me, not what was outside of me. I'm going to end this with something that Amy Morin, who is a psychotherapist, something that she talks about is the measuring stick. And she talks about how we constantly measure our worth and how worthy are we, but we don't have a conscious awareness of like how we're measuring it. Like, we don't know what the measuring stick actually has on it. And so we need to use a measuring stick that's based on values, that's based on how we feel within our own bodies, within our skin. Like, how do we feel? And that requires a huge level of introspection. You are worthy because you are. You don't need anything or anyone to tell you that you're worthy. It is your birthright. You living here on this planet gives you worthiness. So I encourage you to look within, start asking yourself some questions, and trust, my love, that you are enough and that you are worthy just because you are. So that is today's episode. I love you guys so much, and I really appreciate you for being here. Until next time, take care.